Okay, well, hey, this is very nice. Getting a classroom, doing a lot of speeches in big auditoriums and, crowds of service members. Hey, this is great. This is going to be a lot more informal. Get lots of questions in there. I tried to keep it down to about like 18, 20 minutes, and then I want just lots of questions. This is going to be fun. Because you guys are literally the future of this country, right? So, just first off, I want to thank you for having me here today. I mean, it's a tremendous honor. You get to, meet the next generation of leaders right here in North Carolina. Dr. Forrest, thank you. I don't know if it's going to be in a big auditorium or Mr. Luddy was going to be here or not. But all three of my children attend Thales Academy. So being a part of this Thales family, my wife is a teacher as well. I was a substitute teacher and then started teaching and now does administration at the Holly Springs campus. When my son Luca was getting into kindergarten, I spent more time trying to find a school for my kid. I mean, just weeks and months than the time I put in for myself where I went to college. And so, Thales Academy is just a great school. We're very thankful for that. Are you taking pictures? Are you coming on in? Or okay. So the structure, that classical curriculum that you guys are able to take advantage of and learn here creates that framework for critical thinking. It doesn't happen enough, right? It's like a lost art anymore, critical thinking. Thales students are well prepared for the future and for carrying America's torch forward. And I would dare to say that they are better equipped for success and are more resilient in today's crazy environment. And I had previously posed a question to Mr. Luddy in the past. I'm a physician, was at Duke University. I would love to see a research study at some point that shows rates of anxiety and depression in classically trained students that actually have critical thinking skills versus some traditional education models. I think that would be a fantastic study, but there's not one out there yet. The education you're receiving here cultivates that lost art of critical thinking. It empowers you to be leaders in an ever-changing world that is increasingly ruled by herd mentality and Orwellian culture wars. A very, very dangerous combination. I'm here today to encourage you. You are on the right path. In you, I see the future of North Carolina and our nation. Your success is our success. And that will determine if our republic, as an institution of freedom, continues or perishes to the ideology of that Orwellian herd mentality. This is a battle that's played out across our institutions of higher learning, and Thales College is on the right side of those foundational principles set forth in our Constitution. I see that we have a very bright future. So if you guys don't know, you have a superpower. You have a superpower. It's a superpower that's only had by the younger generations. You possess the confidence of youth. Have you guys heard that statement before? Anybody? Confidence of youth. It is this superpower that has propelled America forward for decades. No decade more important than the 1960s with the space race. So we had one astronaut question earlier. I was like, ooh, that's a nice segue. Fantastic. So I have a very fun question for you. Here's another trivia. I didn't even know we were doing trivia, this quiz bowl. So I got a Friday trivia question for you guys. Do any of you know what the average age was for the Apollo 11 mission control team in 1969? Just think about it. I want just give me some guesses. Give me a guess. What? 25? Pretty good.
32.
32? 21? Ooh, that's really young. Woo! So the average age was 27. Think about that. An average age of 27 put man on the moon. So there were some very big decisions made in that control room in 1969, July 16th. Does 1969 seem like a long ways away for you guys? Super ancient? It wasn't that long ago. It really, when you look at all mankind, like 1969 was pretty close. So to highlight that simple fact, there was a 26-year-old mission control specialist by the name of Steve Bales. And Steve was from small town Iowa, a very rural town. I grew up in Nebraska. He became interested in the space program after watching a 1-hour special on TV. So prior to that moon landing, in September 12th of 1969 to be exact, President John F. Kennedy gave a speech at Rice University in Houston. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energy and skills. Because that challenge is one we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. Awesome speech. That JFK speech motivated an entire nation. And it took youth to conquer that challenge. Steve Bales, at 26 years old in 1969, with seconds before the most famous launch in the history of mankind. So did you think about that? Like, we're going to put man on the moon. The mission control guidance was super critical. And so Steve Bales, in 1969, encounters a 1202 alarm crisis code that pops up on his computer. Now, a computer, by the way, that has less computing power than the phone you have in your hand. Hold up your phone. That put man on the moon. What are you going to do with it? Right? Something big. I know you are. So no one else knew what a 1202 alarm crisis code meant. Computers were still very new. Steve's mission control guidance was critical, and the entire mission rested on his interpretation of that alarm. Like, do I pull it right now? Do we scrub this mission? Like, what do I do? Steve Bales had the confidence of youth. He wasn't afraid to take on tasks that had never been done before. He was too young to be paralyzed by fear. He didn't have to wash away prior experiences to build a culture of success. That's a superpower, that confidence of youth. You have that. There's things I can't do. I'm 47 years old. I'm not an old guy, but I'm pretty stuck in my ways. When you're trying to think outside the box, that confidence of youth is a superpower that we don't have in older generations. Only you. Your generation has indeed faced some very unique challenges that had never been faced before. You navigate the minefields of social media that chip away at the core of our humanity. Now, it's not all bad. Not all social media is bad. But it doesn't change. Social media, this digital world, doesn't change who we are as human beings. We're still social creatures. For thousands of years, our culture was told with tales and stories, face-to-face interactions. We read books. Glad to see you guys are still reading books here. Now, the world is all digital now. But this digital world does not replace our need for social interactions and relationships. You are one of the first generations to have instantaneous access to all of the information in the history of mankind at your fingertips, the entirety of your life. You can think about that. Like, since the time you were born, there's been a digital world that you could access this, all the information of mankind, like instantaneously. It's pretty mind-boggling. Knowledge is power, but only if you have the skills to critically analyze it. With that great power comes the challenge of maintaining your identity, resilience, and the very real battle with the mental health crisis that is raging throughout America. It turns out that shutting you out of your institutions of faith, of community, of education at the critical stages in your development was a really poor policy decision. Those bad decisions have come home to roost. As an emergency physician, this is what I deal with every day. I see the anxiety, the depression, and unfortunately a lot of suicides. I sit down with those families, I cry with those families. This mental health crisis is very real. My award-winning book, Be the Weight Behind the Spear, is my prescription for the problem. So the number one question I get, do a lot of speaking engagements, where did you come up with the title? What does Be the Weight Behind the Spear mean? This is my personal leadership ethos. This ethos has served me well in academics, as a professor at Duke University, as an ER doctor in trenches of emergency rooms all around the world, and as a commander in the United States Air Force. I've built a lot of teams. I've built teams of all shapes and sizes, nationalities, colors, creeds, backgrounds. I've worked with NATO allies in combat theaters in Iraq. I've helped build UN security response teams in Rwanda, doing medevac for casualties from the African battlefields. Each and every team has a common theme: be the weight behind the spear. So this simple ethos, it's my call to action. It's a rallying cry to engage your communities. Get out there. What you do every single day matters. Volunteer, schools, churches, coach Little League, go to an animal shelter. Like, what you do every day makes a difference. To better understand what it means to be that weight behind the spear, there's another phrase you may have heard before. Has anybody heard the phrase tip of the spear before? It's used in the military a lot. You see a lot of special operations. In my 23-year military career, I've had the opportunity to serve with some special operations teams. I was medical director for combat search and rescue. I worked with PJs. Has anybody heard of PJs, pararescue? Super cool mission. These are the special operation medics that jump out of helicopters and planes into the most dangerous places on planet Earth to rescue men and women in extreme environments. Whether shot down behind enemy lines or stranded on a frozen mountaintop, these teams are called to execute tasks that most of us only dream about or watch in movies. Special operators like these took part in taking down bin Laden in 2011, and they rescued those Thai children. Do you remember the soccer team that was trapped in Thailand in 2018? One of my PJs was on that mission. If you catch up with me after this, I can tell you some of that story. It was a really cool story. Every special operator has had someone in their life that has given them the amazing confidence to do what they do. A favorite teacher, coach, professor, mentor, in your families. That's the weight behind your spear. So that weight is critical. And sometimes there's been periods in America where we haven't had that weight behind us. You know, ask a Vietnam veteran what it was like to fight a war without the weight of America behind them. Did anybody have family that served in Vietnam? Parents? Yeah, it's a crazy time in America. That was the 1960s as well. So we all owe them a great debt. So the best example, that tip of the spear, the team that infiltrated the compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan in 2011. How old were you guys in 2011, most of you?
It's like basics.
Yeah, I mean, just you know who Osama bin Laden was. Bad dude, killed thousands of Americans, brought down the towers on September 11th, right? So that team brought Osama bin Laden to justice. This was May of 2011. That's the tip of the spear. Now, to illustrate that, if you want to point out how pointy is that tip. So, according to the New York Times, there were 24 Navy SEALs, there were 79 commandos in all, and a dog named Cairo on that team. The question I always get, was Cairo okay? Yes, Cairo was fine. The dog survived. Everybody's happy. So there's 326 million people in America in 2011. So if you take that 79 and just do the math, that's 0.0002% of America. That's pretty elite. That doesn't get much more elite than that. So what about the rest of us? The rest of us are the 99.9998% of America. We can't all be the tip of the spear. Like, I do not jump out of helicopters. I cannot shoot bin Laden. I've worked with some very cool teams, but I'm a doctor. I save lives. I don't take lives. But that's where we all come in, that 99.998% of this country. That's the weight behind the spear. And I've got a fun little illustration here. This is my personal challenge coin. And two of these out. You guys kind of take a look at that, pass it around. So on that coin, first off, it's got my call sign. So Blackjack McConkey. So that's my call sign. I've flown as a military aviator for about 2 decades now. You see on there what I stand for: integrity, professionalism, honor. And on the bottom of that coin, most of you have studied Latin at some point, right? Did you get some of that in the college here as well?
No, we don't have Latin yet.
All right. Gravitate hastum. Gravity of the spear. That's the weight behind the spear. And on the back side of that, these are the missions I've been a part of. I've flown medevac. Pulled body bags and rescued heroes in Iraq. I've gotten to partake in the critical care air transport team, the CCAT mobile ICU teams. I have been with combat search and rescue, and you'll see those mottos up on the top of the coin, when I have your wounded and that others may live. So at that bottom there, gravitate hastum, weight behind the spear. That's our secret weapon, guys. That's our secret weapon against this mental health crisis, and it's your secret weapon to develop the resiliency and the inner strength to prevail in this chaotic world. So you are the future. I want you guys to lead from the front and pay it forward. So I've got some good leadership tips for you. I spent time as a professor at Duke University. These are some leadership tips straight from Coach K. You guys know who Coach Krzyzewski is? Duke basketball coach. He just retired. I mean, he's not a super old guy, but literally Coach K. The highlight of my time when I was at Duke, Coach K came and gave a leadership lecture to our residency program. It was recruiting season. We're trying to recruit residents. I thought he owed somebody a favor, and it was some type of stunt. He came and gave a 2-hour leadership presentation. It was incredible. It blew my mind. I was scribbling, writing down so many notes. They wouldn't let us record anything, which was a real bummer. But I took tons of notes, and a lot of that made it into my assumption of command speech when I became a commander. I was transfixed on every word. So 2 hours of pure leadership brilliance, and he pulled all these stories together. And the one that stood out the most to me was the 2008 Olympic team. He coaches a team full of superstars, monster talent, crazy egos. You guys know who LeBron James is, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade. These guys make tens of millions of dollars a year. How do you pull that type of ego together on a team? So he boiled his leadership style to these very simple traits: honesty, accountability, ownership, and standards, not rules. People don't like rules, but they like standards. So he took the entire team. So this is where things just kind of blow your mind. Him, a pure genius, and you'll hear stories of talking with him, and he just like exudes, like just emanates leadership. You're like, oh, come on, that's crazy. Nobody can be that awesome. He does. It's unbelievable. So he takes the entire team. He flies them out to New York City. He takes them to Ellis Island, and there, in front of the Statue of Liberty, he challenges them all. He says, we're on Ellis Island. I want each of you to find a relative. Find somebody that immigrated to this country, somebody in your family. And so unless you're a Native American or have Native American background, like everyone's an immigrant. So you got to find somebody. Once they found that ancestor, he had them imagine what it was like to set foot in a foreign country. He had them think about what they had to do to survive, to be successful, and how they were going to build a legacy for their families. Now, he had them imagine how proud that ancestor would be now to see them playing for the national team in the Olympics for the United States of America. So he has them write this name down. And the name of someone that had the biggest impact on their life, one of these family members or a coach or a teacher, someone. And he plays the national anthem while they're standing there looking at the Statue of Liberty. Coach K stands up, and that last note strikes, and he tells them next time they hear the Star-Spangled Banner, it would be as Americans competing for the United States of America. And that when, not if, when they win that gold medal, as they hang that medal around their neck and listen to that anthem, he wants them to think of this person. I mean, just, wow. I mean, you talk about positive imagery. I've never seen anything like it. I still get goosebumps at times just thinking about it, because hearing the story, it's incredible. So he has a book out, Leading with the Heart, Coach K. If you haven't read that, put that on your reading list. So his next point was about, when you talk about those points, when you break them down, ownership. Everybody has responsibility on his teams, whether you're making $30 million a year or you're a freshman at Duke University. Everyone has skin in the game. Everyone has ownership. And with that comes the honesty and the accountability. And when he talks about the standards, not rules, people don't like rules. Rules are made to be broken. But you talk about standards. Hold yourself to a higher standard. When you explain that to someone as a military commander, if you just talk about rules, nobody cares. We talk about standards, having pride in being on this team. You're with my squadron. This is the best warfighting medics in the United States Air Force. We have a higher standard. I need you to meet that standard. If you want to be a part of this team, people understand that. And they will strive for that. They will reach those standards. So take pride in whatever team you choose to be a part of. So you are all well on your way to securing the skills, the knowledge, and the drive to propel North Carolina and America in the future. Just as you have had a tremendous weight behind your spear, your teachers, professors, families, coaches throughout your life, you will be the weight behind the spear of our next generation. You will pay it forward to them, just as they're going to pay it forward to the generation behind them. So that is what sets America apart from the rest of the world. As medical director for special operations, as a military commander, and now as medical director at Tesla, I've worked with some pretty amazing individuals. I've worked with greatness. I have seen what it takes to overcome extreme challenges, life and death in combat. I've seen when those challenges are lost, and I've seen the death and destruction right at home in our emergency departments. I refuse to let America fail. You're not going to let America fail. Your success is critical, not just for you and your families, but for this entire country. So it sounds like a big ask, but I know you guys are up to this task. You guys are studying hard. You're putting yourselves in positions to be successful. Take advantage and build a nice weight behind your spear. So be the weight behind the spear in your communities. Be the weight behind something or someone that matters, because life is a team sport. Probably the biggest takeaway. Life is a team sport, and America and North Carolina need you. Thank you.